We are meeting Shri Mithran. Shri Mithran heads marketing at Chargebee. There is a lot to learn from him. The whole journey, how he transformed as a marketing, head, or the like various steps which he has taken towards, into this space of marketing thing of B2B SaaS. Mithran, welcome back, welcome to our show. So we would like to know more about you, how you started this thing, and what are you doing today at Chargebee?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, so just to give you a quick background, so yeah, I head the pipeline marketing wing here at Chargebee. It's been more than 3 years that I've been part of Chargebee. So my marketing journey, I think like most Indian SaaS marketers, it's an accidental journey. Right after engineering, I wanted to be part of a startup ecosystem. I didn't really have much clue about B2B SaaS marketing per se, but just wanted to be in a high growth environment where there is opportunity for quick learning. So that's how the pursuit happened, and I started my marketing career with Mindtickle, another Indian SaaS company. I was part of their initial co-marketing team, and it was slightly different setup than what's here at Chargebee. It's more enterprise sales led motion, and marketing was a lot about brand and content and top of the funnel building and aiding the sales side with right kind of content. That's how my marketing career started. Learned a lot of the foundations and basics at Mindtickle, and then I moved to Chargebee, and yeah, it's been an interesting journey. And yeah, I'm sure a lot of your audience are aware of Chargebee. For the uninitiated, we are a SaaS platform that helps subscription businesses manage their recurring billing and subscription management. And yeah, the marketing here at Chargebee is very close to revenue. So most of the revenue is marketing led. So that gives us a lot of room as marketers for us to learn and grow and expand our horizons. So yeah, currently, like I said, I lead the pipeline marketing team. So what it means is, in a nutshell, responsible for creating the pipeline for our sales teams to meet our revenue targets. And how we do it, it's a combination of acquisition, demand capture, and demand creation. Yeah, through the multiple channels, the regular ones like paid search, organic, SEM, SEO, all of that. And now for the up market, a little bit of account-based marketing and long-term demand creation with co-marketing and all that, right? So, and the North Star is always a pipeline. So that's, and yeah, and I handle a team of 4 different sub-functions. It's been a fantastic journey so far here at Sun.
Great, great. So, can you just tell me what's the strategy you follow in order to understand your customers? I mean, in order to understand your website visitors, like who are they, or who to target, and all those things. What's the strategy you follow there?
Right. So, in terms of strategy, I think more around the philosophy. I think we have been extremely focused on making sure all our marketing engines and the marketing campaigns that we build is tailored to our ICP. When I say ICP for Chargebee, it's subscription businesses. Our strong suit is SaaS companies like CustomFit for that matter, and other subscription verticals like e-learning, e-commerce, and a little bit of digital media, right? So we make sure we don't do say catch-all style marketing, but more laser-focused ICP first marketing. And in terms of the marketing approaches, of course there are different kinds of like outbound first, inbound first, hybrid, and traditionally we have been inbound first, and that's been the strong suit, right? So and inbound in general is a volume based engine,
Yeah.
right? So when it comes to say the strategy or what we optimize for, one is definitely ensuring whatever we do there is a strong fitment for our ICP. So across the channels, across the campaigns, that's one thing we try to move things around. And in terms of say what we consider as a lead and how we have set up the marketing sales alignment process and things like that, it used to be like any other SaaS company. At first we had to solve for scale, which meant the lead capture was the primary problem to solve. But once we got matured about how we understood our customers, how we understood the market better and the channel market fits better, then it kind of evolved to become not just leads, but definitely solving for a high intent, right? So
Makes
yeah, in
sense.
terms of what we pass on to the sales team, it's only the explicit sales intent. People saying that, hey, I want to talk to sales. I have
Mhm,
some interest about what you guys do as a product. Now it's time to
mhm,
talk to sales, right? We don't, and then there is no other low intent leads like just people casually signing up or looking at our content or for that matter, we don't even gate our content. That's part of our strategy, which is to say, as marketers, we are supposed to educate and enlighten our target market, the customers, to know about the problem, make them problem aware, and subsequently make them solution aware. And in this process, we try to minimize the friction as much as possible, add as much as context as possible through the buying journey. And
mhm.
once they have expressed some sales intent, and that's when, yeah, the actual selling begins, or the yeah. That's been the strategy for us.
Uh-huh. That makes really sense because if you see typically, right, so the biggest the relationship between the sales and the marketing team, right? We see the biggest complaint from the sales team is always that, hey, the marketing teams are not giving us the quality leads, right? So like, our time is going in, like, going filtering those leads, what we are getting it out. And that's the reason, okay, there is a big, problem with respect to the conversions. So basically, all the closing the deals and all, right? So that's very important for the marketing team to churn, like basically, to give the quality leads to the sales team, right? In that aspect, what are all the, what are all the objectives you have, to make sure that, so, hey, what we give is a pure goal to the sales team.
Right. So there are two, three aspects to it. One is, like I said, solving for high intent, which means like in terms of what we optimize for on the website, right? It's basically and over time we understood that if someone is speaking to an SDR, that's when the chance of converting is pretty high, right? Like, yeah,
Mhm,
and we do have a free trial option. People try to kind of understand the product, maybe with not a lot of intent, but mostly trying to understand what we do and all of that.
mhm,
And
mhm,
those are also good leads, but if there's no intent, it's just a lot of wasted time for the SDRs. So the first thing that we optimize for is how can we get the prospects set up time on our SDR's calendar. So that the
mhm.
way, and in an inbound context, SDRs are more of product consultants than salesperson, right? They don't really
Correct,
need to
correct.
prospect and chase, right? Like people have interest, you have to give them what they require. So in that case,
Sure.
SDRs are product consultants. So it only makes sense to sort of get prospects with the right kind of questions and meet the SDRs, right? And it becomes a easy conversation where the prospect brings in, hey, I have these four as requirements. Do you solve for it? If yes, then the next step. If no, okay, thanks. That's a very transactional way of doing it, and it's very scalable. So that's the
Uh-huh.
first thing that we optimize for. So most of
Okay.
our opportunities gets created through this process. So that's what we solve as marketing in terms of that. That's the first point. It takes care of quality to some extent, because if a prospect actually takes time to schedule a call, then it clearly means that they have done some research. They know what the space about, and that solves for quality to some extent. The second
Mhm,
point is we have a lot of internal checks and balances and benchmarks to see in a given week what is the quality indicator like, right? So
uh,
internally we have this concept called must wins, where of all the leads, the ones that belong to our ICP, we call them as must wins. So what is the
mhm, mhm.
percentage of must wins in a given week, right? And we have an internal
Right.
benchmark.
Uh-huh.
If you don't meet that, then that's an indicator for marketing to say, okay, the quality for the current the trend of quality is kind of declining, so we need to sort of go back and fix it, right? That's an internal benchmark that we agree to sales, like how we have a SLA with sales to say, if a lead comes in, we need to sort of close it in so many hours or so many days. This is an SLA that we have set up with sales, saying, okay, in a given week you will get X number of schedule calls. Of the total leads that we get, a certain percentage will definitely be must wins, right? So those are some internal operationally we have solved for it, but and yeah, and given and in terms of the data sanity that we maintain,
Mhm,
right, we ensure that we try to get as much information as possible about our customers, and that
Mhm.
gets feeded into the channel teams who also sort of work on that, take that feedback, and try to re-implement in the channel mix. It could be paid search or paid social. So that feedback mechanism is very intact. That we don't really need to wait for sales teams to come give us the feedback saying the quality is low. If the quality is low, the channel teams are armed with the right kind of data to say there is a problem, we need to fix it. Right. So that's how it's done at Chargebee.
Makes sense, man. It makes a lot of sense. There's so many input points over there, right? So, and how do you, like, for example, okay, you're talking about once the visitor comes there, right? Consider if you take a step back, right? So, what are all the things which you try to do to draw the attention? Okay, how, like, think in a way that what is in the very first place, how can you push the quality traffic onto the website? Like, how are you targeting the, like, instead of, okay, it's a spray and pray kind of the thing. So what are the techniques which you use to ensure that, hey, the traffic which I'm driving through any campaigns, what I do, it's something, okay, which is very, very targeted. Like one thing which you mentioned that, okay, we don't do that spray and pray. We are ICP focused targets, right? So in that aspect, how you try to, push that ICP focused audience onto the website?
Right. It goes back to the channels that we rely on, right? And like I said, we are inbound heavy, and that means we are search first, right? So, and
Mm-hmm.
paid search is definitely one of those important channels that works for us. And of course, paid and organic, it's more of it's the same thing, just that like they're fighting for the same kind of intent. Just that paid, it's easier, faster, and has a little bit more control. Organic
Mm-hmm.
also solves the same kind of problems, but it takes a long time. So it's never paid or organic. It's always both. Just that whatever suits for your business goals at that point,
Mm-hmm.
you can sort of go double down on paid for a while, and meanwhile keep building your organic engine. So going back to your question of how do we ensure quality, so paid search is one of the important channels for us, and we have been doing it for a while, and so which means we have historical data to say a certain campaign works in terms of ICB fitment, in terms of deal closures and customers and all of that, right? So and paid search is a channel where you have absolute control on, right? It's not it's if you can decide which intent that you want to appear for, right? Nothing like it, right? And when it comes to our paid search strategy, it's mostly and paid search in general is a really good demand capture engine, right? So when there is certain demand that's there, you just all you have to do is go up here there, put a very concise landing page with the right value proposition and try to convert, right? So it's a fairly linear process to follow. And here the critical thing to ensure is you know which intent you need to appear for which you need to have a really strong understanding of your customers and their pains and problems, and how does it translate into your campaigns and keywords and things like that, right? So here we have a broad definition of like broad segmentation of our paid search campaigns as internally what we call as a core campaigns, which is basically the category keywords that we want to associate ourselves with. It could be subscription billing, recurring billing, subscription management. There are a few categories. Some might be an exact fit. Some might be slightly tangential fit, right? In the sense of say a recurring payment software. It's not exactly what we do, but it's kind of what we do, right? And the prospects might not know that there is a category called subscription billing, but they want to solve a recurring payments problem, which Chargebee in a way enables, right? So there are categories like that. There's a like proper core, and then there is like one layer above, and then there are competitors that we have with all of our integration ecosystem. And I think it's very important for any of the SaaS companies, because if you are a SaaS product, it's very important that you sit in the ecosystem, in the tech stack of your customer. And so they are going to be searching for the problems that they have with one of their tech that they use, and probably your product will sort of bridge the gap of the tech that they're already using. So we have a strategy for all of our integration ecosystems, and we also do competition against our competitors, and subscription billing is a fairly heated market, so there's a good amount of search competition going on there. So sort of a easy win, but at the same time, it's fairly expensive, right? So you need to ensure that you're going after the right kind of competition. You have a really strong competitive intel for you to say how exactly are you different from the other competitor. What are the value that you might provide that the competitor at this point might not have, right? So that's another part of the strategy. So paid search, this is what we do, and we have a framework to understand in a given month if there are say X number of leads, how many leads. So every campaign is pegged against two benchmarks, which is of the total number of leads from the campaign, how many belong to the ICP, right? So that ratio for every campaign we try to maintain a certain ratio, right? And we consistently try to improve that ratio. And if some campaigns are not meeting that ratio, then we take a hard call on saying, okay, there seems to be a problem with this campaign. Either the targeting, the understanding of the intent is wrong, or we don't really have a good message here for us to convey, right? So this framework sort of helps us keep up with the quality, and the same approach works for organic, just in the sense that it's fairly long tail. Every content hub that we create is curated with a pain in mind, with a persona in mind, and we sort of build the content hubs from there, right? And another channel that really that has started to work really well for us is paid social. There I would say, and in general, paid social or any display network is sort of a spray and pray. It's not as accurate and as high intent as paid search. But we have solved that with some really good investment into Martech. So we have a good tech stack that helps us sort of hyper target our ICP. So, and it's not to say it's like account based marketing or one-on-one types, but it's more of one is to many. So we use Clearbit as a core data centralized data platform for us, and we sort of create audiences and attach it with uh, high performing audience channels like Facebook. So that sort of works. In that way, you have really good control of targeting. Here you can clearly say, hey, I want to go after people in the SaaS industry who might be interested in subscriptions, who might be interested. So it's a combination of what data quality that a player like Clearbit or ZoomInfo has, plus the targeting capabilities of a really good audience engine like Facebook, right? So the amalgamation of two helps us control the quality to some extent, but we need to also understand inbound, because going to be there is some amount of inefficiency with inbound. You can't expect every lead that's coming in to convert. So you need to understand, based on the scale of your business, what is the inefficiency that you can live with, and also it also depends on your SDR capacity. If you only have 10 SDRs, you can't be very inefficient. But you have 20 SDRs, then you have slightly more room to bring in more leads. But it's okay, some don't convert because now you're trying to optimize for quantity and not so much for quality. So at scale, the decision making frameworks and mechanisms change, but I think as you have to have some kind of a guiding principle to sort of keep iterating on it.
Definitely, it makes a lot of sense, Mithran. So, and also tell me one thing, okay? There are these companies who are LinkedIn first marketing, okay, and Facebook first. So, like in case of Chargebee, we say that it's a kind of a Facebook first, like basically that's a predominant or the primary channel. So, like any reason or what is that you are looking from both the sides?
Yeah, I think there are some nuances to it. For example, a lot depends on who's your target persona, right? And for Chargebee, it's a lot of finance and operations, and of course CEOs, but predominantly operations and finance, who don't typically hang out on LinkedIn compared to say sales and marketing or product management or HR, right? So
Mhm.
the persona clearly defines who you want to target.
Correct.
And the second aspect is of course like the ads capability of each of these platforms and how expensive these are, right? LinkedIn is fairly expensive. At the same time, in terms of their algorithm, I don't think at this point they can compete with what Facebook has, right?
Mhm.
So there are some differentiated with respect to the targeting capabilities, and and it's not just that Facebook is a better target. Like Facebook is generally better, like more for
Mhm.
B2C. I think for it to work for B2B, you need to have that sort of a either an internal CDP of sorts where you control your audience, you bring in a lot of and any audience platform works based on the input data that we feed, right? So we have connected our marketing automation system to Facebook, right? And we have created a lot of internal hacks to sort of let Facebook smartly understand which is a good conversion, and not just any conversion, but also let Facebook know that okay, this conversion actually became an opportunity for us. This conversion actually became a customer for us. So the ad engine is able to optimize based on those, and these nuances are not so well built in LinkedIn. So there are some nuances at the audience level, but I think the fundamental thing is where does your persona reside? So if they are not on LinkedIn, it
That's
doesn't
true.
make sense to burn dollars on it because it works for some of the companies.
Correct. Correct. That's the D line, right? Where your person, where your persona resides, where they are spending time, okay, where they are hanging out. It's better to reach out at that point or that time in time, right? That's really nice. And one thing, like a continuation to that thing, right? Like, so what metrics do you use to measure your post-click performance? Okay, once they land onto the thing, so how are they performing or how are they moving towards your goal points?
Yeah, again, we have to break it down. So in terms of within the website, the end goal is someone scheduling a call, or like we
Hmm.
have we have three ways for someone to express intent. One is we have drift chat on the website, so and we have the sales agents who are available 24/7. So either they can chat with them, or they can
Hmm.
schedule a call and book a time on an SCR calendar, or they can sign up for the product, right? So depending on which persona fits really well, we try to optimize accordingly. For example, there are developers who are also a sort of a persona for Chargebee who try to do a lot of DIY types, right? They want to
Hmm.
explore
Hmm.
the sandbox environment. They don't really want to get on
Correct.
a.
Huh.
So for
Huh.
those people, you try to optimize for the sign up journey. But for the ones with significantly high intent, people who have been coming back to our website, who are coming from really good campaigns, like for example, someone is coming from a competitor campaign, we really want to talk to them because they
Right.
are actively evaluating. So depending
Huh.
on
Huh.
who the persona, what is their behavior, and the end point is one of these three things, depending on all of these factors, right? And there could be leading indicators before that
Uh-huh.
in terms of what's happening, right? Uh, yeah, for something like paid search and like really high intent campaigns, we want to sort of convert it on the first session. Like it has to be pretty straightforward. People have to come and
Correct.
look at the page
Correct.
and convert. But for slightly, for example, we do a lot of say top of the funnel discovery kind of campaigns on paid search,
Huh.
right? People who might not be looking out for us, but we want to sort of make them think about this
Get
problem.
them in
So
there. Correct. Okay. Okay.
those cases, we sort of give them a case study or a log which talks about a particular use case, a particular problem. In that case, we just optimize for engagement and
Hmm.
then it goes into the retargeting queue, right? So it depends on so the North Star metric for the website is one of the conversions. I think that stands true for anyone.
Correct. Correct.
But here the
Yeah.
caveat is we try to optimize it differently for different industries or different personas or different website behavior. And the leading metric is the engagement on the website, how many pages they visit, and so on and so forth. And we also have an internal. We used to have it. Now it's more of it got redundant over a point. But when we sort of moved from like super scaled page structure
Hmm.
to a more like super optimized for ICP page
Hmm.
structure,
Hmm.
we introduced this metric called marketing qualified click, right?
Okay.
Like we have a marketing qualified lead, but can we
Correct.
bring that to one step above and call it marketing qualified click,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
right? So that is to say, now we have a lot of these what do you call like clear bit reveal kind of products,
Correct. Huh.
which helps us de-anonymize the visitors, understand
Hmm. Hmm.
who's what, right? And of let's say from a given campaign we get 100 clicks, we want to understand of the 100 clicks how many clicks are actually belonging to our ICP. Because at the website level, we might not know who the persona is, but we know which account they are, which industry they belong to, right? So in Chargebee speak, it's like if they are coming from a SaaS company, then it's a marketing qualified click. So every campaign we try to benchmark this of all the clicks that are there, how many are marketing qualified clicks, and sort of keep optimizing on that number, right? Because that's the first indicator of the quality of a campaign. The leads, yeah, of course, but before the click and lead, there is a lot of lead time for us to understand and optimize on. So that was an interesting metric that we introduced and kind of kept optimizing on top of it. And I think metrics has to evolve. I don't think it has to be standardized, and it is very different for different companies and different stages of the company. Like what made sense 2 years before doesn't make sense now at all, and it's important that we don't really get uh, muddled with these metrics, and you have to, like, your business really well, what works for you, and it's okay for you to not look at standardized metrics, but ones that makes absolute sense just for your workflow.
Makes sense. Uh, Yeah, and one thing, like I know that like basically Chargebee uses CustomFit, right, for the as a personalization engine, right? The question for you is like if you see, I know that there are so many experiences what Chargebee is running for different person of the people landing onto your website. Be it's a B2B visitors, for B2C visitors, you are trying to showcase the entire website. And look, okay, Chargebee is meant for B2C. The people coming from the edutech background, say you want to showcase, see these are all the top companies which are using Chargebee or this is the case studies beyond. It's not just that one particular landing point. Okay, even there are so many touch points where you are trying to showcase them. It's exactly what you're looking for is what Chargebee is meant. It's a kind of a tailor-made solution for your thing, right? So, how it is helping you, or what was the first approach when you started designing these kind of the experiences on your website?
Yeah. So in terms of personalization as a concept, I think it's still evolving. And initially, when it came about, a lot of people were trying to get it very super personalized to call out the company name or to call out the person name, saying, "Hey,
Correct.
Ashwin." And 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 for me, that's cool, but that's not really going to solve the problems, right? And the personalization to me is basically solving for context, right? And probably when you start as a small company, your ICP is going to be extremely defined. It's very finite set of people. But as your product capabilities involve, as the market expands, there are going to be different interpretations of your product, right? And clearly the casual approach will not work, and you'll have to sort of test out different variation, different messaging, and things like that, right? So yeah, context setting is what any personalization layer allows us to do, right? In simple terms, that's our ideology, right? And of course, we try to run these experiments with an objective of better conversions, right? But regardless of the conversions, we try to solve for the customer experience, right? If an e-learning company, like you said, is coming onto the website, we shouldn't be talking about how we are really good for SaaS, right? So there might be some things that they resonate with, but given that we are able to solve their use case out of the box, how can we let them know very clearly, right? So the solving for the customer experience is important. It's not just to sort of have sort of a vague correlation and expect them to speak to an SDR and understand it further, but how can we, like, upfront enable them with all the context that they need to make a decision of should we pursue the evaluation, right? So that's where the ideology comes in with, and yeah, and it definitely calls for conversions, and in particular cases there are very small tactical experiments that gives a massive difference, even like you wouldn't even think of that to have such an impact, right? And but for me, that's a second order consequence. The primary consequence is yeah, speak to the customer for who they are and not for who you are, right? So
Correct.
that's
Correct.
all
Correct.
there is.
No, that what you told is, it's a gold. Like in sense, like people have this misconception that personalization means, okay, say your name, your company name, okay, in that web page, add these things here and there. That okay, for example, XYZ company, hey, charge me if you come to website. That's not the thing, right? So that's a kind even scary. Even it can, let them off in certain
Yeah.
cases. It's okay, for example, if you're trying to put it in a banner or somewhere, okay, as a hello kind of a thing, like welcome back. That's fine. But if you go very deep in that thing, okay, then they will get scary, right? It's
Yeah.
all about, how can you make them nurture your visitors? Like in sense, like for example, even in second case also, right? In case of B2B, the buying won't happen on the very first visit itself, as you know. Right, you
Yeah.
need to nurture them across the multiple visits. Like, okay, depend based on who he is, you're trying to showcase a very personalized one. So now, based on what he was doing, what kind of the behavior which he exhibited on the website, when he comes back next time, how can you nurture him to the next level, and how can him slowly take him, into that bar, whatever that the buyer's journey thing, ultimately get him converted, right? So that's what we preach at CustomFit for to our customers whenever actually they come, right? So Definitely, yeah. And some of these things, okay, definitely I should thank for Chargebee. Okay, you guys are something masters in that thing. I mean, to be very frank with you, like even when we are talking today to our customers, right, they even ask, hey, can we have one meeting with Chargebee marketing team? Because they are pioneers in doing all such kind of whatever the experimentations or personalization, even other side also, even driving the traffic thing and all. So people are definitely looking at you, man, Mithran. So your team. So, like I sometime I can ping you and Anirudh and all. Hey, some customers are looking for your feedback on this thing and all. Good that, okay, it's a kind of education thing which you are also, showcasing that, hey, in this SaaS thing, this is what may work out, or this is what actually we are trying to do, right?
Yeah,
That's great.
thanks.
Cool. Finally, a couple of things. Like, if you see in 2020, 2021, right, there is a massive change, unimaginable thing because of all this pandemic thing, right? So, for example, for the growth strategy, like before pandemic and now, what has changed with respect to your, thought process?
Um,
Uh,
I wouldn't think pandemic really influenced
mm,
anything, but like in terms of business, in terms of what we do as a business, I think it has been a sort of a positive influence in the sense that I think more and more companies are moving digital, more and more companies are understanding the need for subscription. Right? There's a lot of on-prem companies like historically selling from physical locations are now moving into cloud and starting to sell subscriptions. So in general, there is a good wave of subscriptions, like particularly industries like e-learning. Everything is becoming cloud-based learning, and that enables a lot of e-learning companies, and that kind of in a way helps Chargebee. So in a business context, I would think pandemic has given a positive influence from particularly from a marketing standpoint. Yeah, again. In general, I think every company is getting smarter with their marketing strategy, right? I think the global marketing landscape has kind of opened up a lot of the playbooks that it's no more a secret trade for just one company or one or two companies, right? So
mm,
the the playbooks are mostly the same. It just comes down to how good are we able to execute and what is the discipline with which we are able to execute, right? And given the playbooks have kind of normalized, the competition definitely gets heated up. So that's one part, and there has to be a constant pursuit of understanding and unlocking your next customer base, right? Like maybe now, and for Chargebee, we are seeing some levels of saturation for some of the core engines like paid search, paid organic search. It's given that we have done it for a while, it is starting to give sort of diminishing returns, which means we should start forcing ourselves to look into other channels, right? Probably inbound has been fairly comfortable for us, and we have done it quite well. But now the next challenge is, okay, we have solved for that engine. Okay, what next, right? And now the pursuit is more around how to solve for account-based marketing at scale, how to solve for demand creation, right? I think most SaaS companies do demand capture really well. There is existing demand, you just put ads, capture it, and optimize it and do it really well. How do you create demand for the people who might not be thinking about you, right? So what sort of strategies we should implement? So that's how the thought process is evolving,
mm,
and yeah, and the other part is the buying journey and the buying behavior is also evolving, right? With more and more competition coming into the picture, I think every company is now understanding the need for giving as much information to the arming the buyers with information, which means you should also get as transparent as possible, like focus on the buying experience than solving for your process, right? It's not to say, okay, I set up my SDR team this way and so I'll do this, right?
mm,
Like because I've committed X number of leads, I'll do this. So that's not what it takes. If you solve for buyer experience, everything will fall through, right? It might sound like theoretical thing, but again, like I said, how well we execute, right? Like these are principles that everyone will agree on face value, but I
mm.
think the actual problem here is, okay, how do you translate this into application, which is something that we are learning as we do. It's not that we are masters of this trade either, so it's an evolving, iterating experience, and yeah, that's how I would talk the last one,
Yeah,
2 years of the journey.
true. Yeah. So how do you define a revenue marketing?
Yeah,
I
I
mean, for
think
you, what's?
Yeah.
What's the core over there?
Yeah, I think there is a general shift that's happening in the B2B marketing landscape, right? And it has been always evolving, and I think the last 2 3 years, people are starting to realize, and it has always been true that any GTM team is solving for revenue at the end of the day, right? Just that the way we were measuring it and the way we were operating it was different, right? So revenue marketing in the sense, and yeah, B2B marketers are solving for revenue either directly or indirectly, right? And the closer you are to the problem, because at the end of the day, for any business, you are trying to solve for two things. One is customer experience. Second is your own growth, right?
Correct.
So, and given that you're optimizing for these two things, and these are your foundational tenets, and it should help you with your decision making, right? And anything before that is just, it might help for the short term, but for you to sort of build the consistent engines, it'll be a
Hmm.
problem, right? So the closer you are to revenue and pipeline, it helps with faster decision making and not stretch yourselves too thin in investing in multiple channels, but focus on one that actually gives you a pipeline or revenue impact, right? And
Hmm.
it also forces you to sort of sit closely with sales, understand the sales process a lot better instead of having that sort of a phone booth fight on quantity versus quality and okay, follow up, quality is bad. That sort of a conversation is not helping, right? So it forces marketers to also understand and empathize with what actually an account executive or an SDR faces on the call, right? Like what sort of questions are asked, right? And if and a good litmus test is if an SDR is having to answer so many questions on a call, it only means that as marketers we fail to explain some of it before they got onto the call. So it forces us to sort of get that feedback and try to solve for it either with smarter campaigns or better messaging on the website, which means as much as you obsess about revenue and pipeline, it brings out this behavior and it helps with fine tuning the way you think, the way you execute, and yeah, in general, I think across the globe, the trend is like unmissable right now, which is marketing source pipeline is the North Star metric for marketing teams,
Correct.
and not
Correct.
leads
Correct.
and not website traffic and not anything else.
Correct.
And
Correct.
and that's a good evolution. I wouldn't say people who are following otherwise are wrong. Maybe it works for their business truly well, but I think for if you're working in a B2B SaaS environment where it is a sort of a sales led motion where you're responsible to deliver pipeline to sales, it only makes sense because that's the absolute North Star, right? And if you try to anchor your thought process around it, I think it's better for the business unit altogether.
Sure. That's very nicely articulated, man. So finally, like, what kind of the tools do you use to automate your marketing efforts?
Yeah. So HubSpot is the core marketing automation platform that we use. So everything is kind of centralized around HubSpot, I would say.
Hmm.
On the website, we use Drift for chat. We use Chili Piper for scheduling and routing. Uh, we use Clearbit across the board. Reveal on the website. We use Clearbit ads to sync with our ads, and then there is
Hmm. Hmm.
enrichment and things like that. And Clearbit and CustomFit comes into the picture for us to run the personalization journeys. And CustomFit again sits really well with our stack. It integrates with Clearbit for us to sort of hyper personalize for identified audiences. It connects really well with HubSpot. So any say if there is a lead who's kind of speaking with a prospect and that information is available on HubSpot, if they come back, we're able to sort of match that person and sort of tailor the right
Okay.
experience based on their journey on in the CRM and things like that. So custom fit is one of the core web tech stack alongside Drift, Chili Piper, Clearbit, and the likes. And that's mostly on the front. And there are say the usual suspects like Facebook ads, Google ads, LinkedIn ads, all of the ad mechanisms. So that's part of it. And yeah, we use a lot of Zapier for a lot of the internal stitching and hacks and that.
Got it.
But
Got it.
the core automation, the core reporting and analytics, all of it rests within HubSpot.
Yeah, it looks like there is very deep from the different angles. But one thing, Mithran, I want to tell you that if you see Chargebee's the culture there, right? They are something early adopter culture, right? So if you see, for us, Chargebee was the very first customer who trusted us, who gave us the space, to work together. Okay, so much of inputs we got while during our initial days and all those, even still actually we are getting. But why it's important to get into that early adopting culture or something, okay, to go and figure out, okay, this may be useful tool for my growth, internal purpose. Okay, so what do you suggest for what any suggestions for the fellow marketers listening over here who want to try out something new, who want to try out something, something which can drive them, which still not got that much of the reviews or anything over there
Yeah.
in the thing, but has a lot of potential.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the larger org culture. We have a culture of pay it forward. It comes from our CEO, right? So like someone trusted us, and that's why we got here, and we have to pay it forward. And I think like products like CustomFit or any new up and coming products, there's a lot of promise, and I think there are really good cutting edge tech that's coming in, which is kind of replacing the legacy systems, which kind of fail to evolve with the changing landscape. And the newer tools are kind of understanding point solutions really better, right? And the earlier systems might be a centralized platform for solving a lot of it, but might not be solving one thing really well, right? The deep expertise is what these new tools are solving, right? So it all comes down to understanding that bit, right? Not trying to solve for simplicity of managing things, but also what is this thing open us up, right? I think in the context of custom fit, we did have a problem. We did have a problem of conversion. We did have a problem of yeah, how can we yeah, basically conversions was the
Engagements,
singular problem,
correct.
right? But I think when we understood the promise of what the product can do, it not just solved for conversion, but it also enabled us to do something more, which is solve for customer experience, right? So
Correct.
I think the optics, as marketers or as any evaluators for that matter, it's not just about is it solving for the pain that you have currently, but also start thinking about what does it open up for you, right? Open up in the sense of opportunities, open up in the sense of how well are you able to think beyond it, right? And I think most of our learnings have like good part of it. I would definitely attribute to the kind of vendors and partners that we have, right? Like I think
Mhm.
one of them being Clearbit. I speak a lot about Clearbit. I think
Correct, correct.
primary reason is yes, they have a good product, but also what they do really well is they they open up their marketing playbook and show how it is done using their product. Just don't build a product
Mhm.
and ship it to you, but actually enable you to understand, okay, how can you make this work, right? So that show and tell is something that I really like with Clearwood, and I think Custom
Mhm.
Fit is starting to do a lot of it. I'm seeing a lot of these interviews and podcasts where you kind of show the playbooks and show them how
Correct,
it's done, right? So that
correct.
that is also part of a new tool experience. It's not just pain, it's not just a metric on the dashboard, but it's also about what does it enable you, right? So that would be one another way to think beyond just looking at it for what it is.
Yeah. Definitely, man. That kind of the culture, even actually, we are also in that mode now. Since now we have grown a bit, we are also trying out the new tools from our side, from external side to test for our growth or okay for our other teams and all those things, right? That's
Yeah, and
always important to be that in that initial graph, so that
yeah,
the advantage what you get, okay, once you start using it, it's not just for the pain point thing. It may open a lot of different opportunities, as you mentioned.
yeah. And the other part is like it would be most on the uh, beyond the tools. I think if you work with a early like a smaller stage product, I think given that you are one of their beta customers, your feedback is very valuable for them, right? So
Exactly.
and they're going to act on it immediately, and there is a really good two-way relationship that you can forge. It definitely helps the product in terms of how fast they can iterate, but also in terms of how they in turn enable you to solve your own problems, right? So that I think in custom fits case, it's a good example. I think in the initial journeys, I think even you kind of jumped on a lot of these calls to just troubleshoot and help us
Correct, correct,
getting the
correct.
experience in life, right? And I
True,
think
true.
that sort of a thing with a larger product is going to be very difficult, right?
Correct.
It's a different workflow. It's not that they are not solving it really well; they do it, but nothing like this, right? So that's a
Correct.
different experience. Sometimes you have to do it, right? So
True. And now if you see, right, it's almost a year we are working with Chargebee now. Now if you see, even the custom fit evolved from that mode of just the hyper personalization platform towards the CRO platform. If you see our mission statement, right, it changed into way like a moment a visitor lands on your website, custom fit will help you convert that visitor to a lead by increasing probability to 50% more. Right, so like we lot of things, okay, we added these days, like it's all about understanding what is happening on the website, like what the people are doing, where they are drifting, where they are bouncing off, like that's very very important, because it's a kind of other, it's a kind of a guesswork thing, right? How we are avoiding
yeah,
entire guesswork, right? And the other aspect, if you see, like it's also all about different alerting recommendations, AML, the reports kind of things are coming, so lot because it's ultimately it's what, okay, so the aim for the any marketer, right, to convert, right, to get the leads, right?
yeah.
So that's what actually we are going towards. Thank you, thanks a lot. And one question, final question, like I just want to understand, like in your LinkedIn, right, you mentioned something, Uja Day. What that means? it's
Okay.
it's a reverse of deja vu.
Yeah, it's a kind of that. The way I kind of understand it is, as marketers, I think we get illusioned very very easily. Like if there are repetitive scenarios that we get into, we kind of just assume that it's like the same problem, and we kind of either
Hmm.
ignore or try to solve it the same way, right? But
Okay.
it's very important to look at the same problem very differently every time it shows up. Deja vu is like you kind of just realize that it happened some time back, but Uja Day is opposite of it, to say that okay, it might have happened some time back, but can we look at it with a new lens, right? So, and it's like it helps you create
Hmm.
new hypotheses, create like new ways of solving the same kind of problems. And as marketers, it's bound to happen because you're kind of obsessing about the same problem time and again. You get jaded over a point. So how do you keep yourself fresh is to have that fresh pair of eyes for the same problem, regardless of how many times you solved it. Always approach it like a new problem.
Nice, man. This should go as a title for this episode. Like we'll steal this for this episode title. This is really good way to put in the thing, like it's all about the the thinking of a marketer, how they need to do in a different way, right? So that's really great. Thanks, Mithran. Thanks a lot for your time. This is really, like, definitely our audience will learn a lot from it. uh, you know so like any final suggestions for any entry level marketer which you want to recommend, or based on your experience?
Yeah, I would say I think, yeah, particularly for marketing, there are definitely a lot of jargons. There are a lot of playbooks, best practices, so much literature out there. All of it is good, but make sure you stick to your first principles. Make sure you look at the problem like with one degree at a time, and not get bogged by all of the definitions out there. And most importantly, if if you're working for a product company, regardless of what you do, regardless of the title you are a product marketer. That's something I'm starting to understand a lot. But
Mm-hmm.
people think that product marketing team is the product marketing team. But if you're in a product company, regardless of you doing CRO or you're doing SEO or
Correct.
whatever, everyone is a product marketer. So deeply understand the product, deeply understand the business impact of what you do, right? So I always ask the question of any new initiative, what is going to be the bottom line impact, right? You have to have one degree of, at least, like at some degree, you need to know this is how it's going to impact the business. If you don't have that question, ask why. I'm sure
Correct.
there is someone who is going to give you that why. So yeah, like always stick to the fundamentals. Make sure you obsess about your business and your product. And yeah, definitely take a lot of these best practices from podcasts like this. But it's not a holy grail. So make sure you're able to differentiate that. So that would be my share of learning
Yeah,
experience.
that's really great, man. Even actually, we suggest the same thing at our team, right? So end of the day, you need to know in and out, like until unless you you yourself don't understand the product, like in that deep way, you can't able to convey that, or you can't able to showcase that that variation over there when you're trying to market it out.
Yeah,
Right, so that's really like, yeah, that's the process which we follow over here, which always any point of the time, any feature which we launch, right, or any even small thing, there's a like there is a meeting what we do every Wednesday where these feature teams will just give exclusive note, a talk to the marketing team and the sales team, and they need to cross question. Okay, you need to come up with these kind of the questionnaires and ask them, okay, why is such so and so, then why not, this is the thing. And they can also give their feedback with respect to like their experiences and all those things. That's definitely helping us a lot. It's a kind of two-way connects what we try to make from the from the product team and then the sales and marketing team, so that we all go in the same boat.
yeah, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, with that note, let me just wrap up this session. Thanks a lot, Mitran, and I hope definitely our viewers will take tons of learnings from this episode. Thank you all. Bye.